Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. And this is the video that some of you guys have been waiting for. In this video, I want to give my commentary and reaction to Australian YouTuber Karl Jobst's video entitled Exposing Fraud and Deception in the Retro Video Game Market. Now, if you've yet to see this 53-minute long video, please click the link in the description and it will be there for your viewing pleasure. I strongly advise everybody out there that is watching this video right now, at least take the time to watch this 53-minute long expose at least once. I don't care if you collect comic books. I don't care if you collect coins. I don't care if you're in the high-end art market. I don't care if you're on the antique side of the equation. This particular video done by Karl Jobst goes in detail into a lot of market manipulation that has been taking place in the antiques and collectibles trade since the 1980s. He talks about the rare coin bubble, how that burst. He talks about Beanie Babies. He talks about what's going on with vintage comic books. He even talks a little bit about show bidding. And he also, of course, goes in detail as to what has been occurring in the graded video game marketplace. And he does set up a lot of evidence that really states that WATA games, certain auction companies, certain individuals in the trade are potentially guilty of collusion and manipulating these markets. And I want to say, after you look at the evidence, you're going to come to the conclusion that the evidence is very conclusive and it's very damning. And if that's true, it is going to have a ripple effect on these markets going forward. And I hate to say it, on some of the individuals involved, potentially, if these allegations are 100% true. Now, I have looked at a lot of this evidence. I myself, obviously, have been coming down here talking to you guys about market manipulation for many years now. And a lot of you still turn a blind eye to what's occurring in a lot of these pop culture markets in the overall trade. In fact, I'm very discouraged by what I'm seeing on certain online collecting forums like Video Game Sage, and even from certain individuals who should know better that are operating on the CGC comic forums at present time. Now, to be fair, I do want to put a caveat in here. There are certain people that are operating on these collecting forums that are very wise. They understand what is happening in these markets, and they are not starry-eyed, unsophisticated speculators that are running to protect WATA games or some of these auction companies or some of these people that are operating unethically in these markets. And I do want to give a shout out to those individuals because please know your voices are important, your voices are heard, and those voices is what's going to reveal the truth throughout all this. And that is what is most important, getting to the truth, guys. I don't care whether you like me. I don't care whether you hate me. I don't care if you have no opinion of me. I don't care if you love video games. I don't care if you hate video games. The abuses that are alleged to occur in these markets that I started talking about roughly 2 years ago when I started this channel really need to be looked at and investigated. There are certain individuals that are controlling these markets with an iron fist, and they have a vested interest not only in the selling side of the trade, but also with auction companies and also with grading companies. And anytime we have that type of manipulation taking hold of these markets, it always ends badly. This has been happening literally since the 1980s. If you don't believe me, what is it that I always tell you guys? Study the rare coin marketplace. You know, I do a lot of videos on a lot of these collecting categories, and some of you reach out and say, Sean, you know, that's a very boring video. Why are you talking about that? Why do we have to learn that? Because all these markets, throughout all of them, the fundamentals are the same. If you learn rare coins and you learn what went on in that market, and you later go into collecting comic books or toys or video games or collectible trading cards, and you see some of the same things that were taking place in the coin collecting marketplace in the 1980s, guess what? It all ends the same, guys. It's all about making money for a select group of people at your expense. And that's true if you are a collector, even if you're one of these starry-eyed speculators logging on to Video Game Sage right now, claiming that none of these companies, none of these auctioneers did anything wrong. I am sorry. In my opinion, you are 100% incorrect based on the damning evidence that has been presented in this particular video. Now, what I do want to state is, where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to tell you, again, the dust has yet to settle. I truly believe, going forward, instead of seeing some of this stupid kiddie reporting where CNN or even people in the overall video game trade put out an article that says, your old video games could be worth millions, I really think that people are going to take a step back and go, you know what? We got to see what's going on in this market, rather than believing that some of these games are worth $2 million at present time. You know, guys, what is it that I've always said on this channel? If you go back to 2016, you go back to 2017, even early 2018, before WATA was really established, if you wanted to buy some of these games, you could have bought them for literally, in some cases, less than 5% of what they're selling for today in the open market. Now, does it really make sense when you analyze a market that within 2 to 3 years, prices went up that much? We are talking about thousands upon thousands of percentage point gains. No market in the antiques and collectibles trade, or otherwise, works like that without severe market manipulation and or speculation. That's how I was trained to analyze these markets. That's why when you guys come to me and say, Sean, how did you know? How did you be the first that was telling everybody that these markets were being manipulated? It's the way that I was taught. Going back to when I was first given this particular book written by collectibles expert Harry Rinker, entitled How to Make the Most of Your Investments in Antiques and Collectibles. The first insider's guide to manipulating the antiques and collectibles markets to maximize your investment. I had a mentor give me this book when I was in high school, and it pretty much changed my whole perception on how these markets operate and function, and the certain participants that are pulling the strings behind the scene. If you don't believe that that is happening, just go log on to some of these collecting forums and look at what individuals are now trying to defend the grading company, WATA Games, some of these auction companies, and even some of these participants that came into these markets and manipulated at your expense. If you truly are a collector or a speculator and you have an emotional attachment to video games, rather than looking at this damning evidence and going, you know what, I don't care, I'm sticking up for my beloved hobby, I don't think that these people did anything wrong, you are a fool. You don't understand that the people you are protecting do not give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about your collecting category. All they care about is the money behind it and how much they can make by manipulating these markets. And I fully understand some of these individuals that were exposed in this particular video do have large ties to the vintage video game community. I do not deny that. I do not deny that some of you out there have interacted with these individuals on more than one occasion, and you are also potentially friends with them. That said, you must understand that if these allegations are true, these people do not have your best interests in mind. Now, with that being said, where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to tell you this firsthand. There are certain developments that have already occurred that are actually bringing a little bit of transparency and ethics to this market as we speak. The first main development came out of the Collectible Grading Authority out of Norcross, Georgia. Now, if you don't know who the Collectible Grading Authority is, they own such companies as VGA and AFA, meaning they grade pretty much toys and video games. VGA was the original grading company that came into the video game space and did not manipulate the market. That is why several years back, you saw some of these games were not selling for the crazy premiums that they are today. VGA stayed out of the secondary market. They did what's right. They applied ethics to the trade. That's the way it's supposed to be, guys. Well, VGA just announced that going forward, they will be overhauling their website and releasing population reports. This will bring an element of ethics and transparency to the trade once it occurs. Now, I will tell you, there's most likely going to come investigations into some of these grading companies, possibly WATA, and also some of the auction companies and some of the individuals that have partaken in deciding to manipulate these markets. And I'm going to state this right now. WATA Games did not do anything to their benefit when these allegations were announced. What WATA Games did, to my knowledge, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, they pretty much hired a PR firm, put out an interesting statement, and also kind of did away with a certain individual that they were linked to on their website. And in my opinion, that really makes me think that they are 100% guilty of these allegations. But time will tell, because there are people that are looking into this. And I assure you, it's very interesting that the overall media involved in the vintage video game space has now changed gears. If you remember, a couple of weeks back, publications like Kotaku, Nintendo Life, they were all putting out articles where your old video game is worth X millions of dollars, or this game sold for $2 million at auction. Go search this information now. They're putting out articles where alleged allegations indicate the vintage video game marketplace may be rocked with fraud. Isn't that something that I've been alluding to for several years now, guys? Even if you go back and you look at my articles written for Antiques and Auction News, I made very interesting statements to that effect, and most people thought I was crazy. Now, I'm going to tell you where this is going to go firsthand. A lot of people are asking, is this market going to crash, Sean? Are prices going to drop? No, the answer is. People will still believe in this market because at the end of the day, people have an emotional attachment to these items. They don't want to believe that anything like this could happen. They want to believe that the market is stable. They want to believe that these markets are not manipulated. And I want to end this video by telling you something that I've always told you before. 97% of you watching this video would be better off putting your money in an S&P 500 index fund rather than investing in any antique and collectible over the long term. And I know a lot of you guys aren't going to do that because you want so much to believe, just like the speculators defending these companies on a lot of these online collecting forums right now want so much to believe. I'm going to end this video with a quote by Steve Jobs, and you're going to see how it applies directly to what we're talking about. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as crazy, we see genius. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And for those of you unaware, that's what Karl Jobst just did. And he used all the information that you had at your fingertips. He presented it in a thought-provoking manner. And now, let me tell you, certain things are going to change. They're going to be forced to. Because I got news for you. If I was one of the people that paid X number of dollars for one of those games, even if it was only $100,000 or $200,000, and now allegations like this came out, I'm asking, what did I exactly buy? And that is something that you all should be asking today. Thank you, guys.